Alright, back again, Luke here. And today what I want to do is make a video here to try and help you guys take care of and help preserve your original Xbox a little bit longer. Now, there's a really big problem with these Xboxes, aside from the other ones that have been pointed out. One that was just pointed out recently to me by a YouTuber who goes by the name of lowercase I, David, capital P. And he had left a comment on one of my videos asking me if I had removed the capacitor for the clock on the Xbox. And now with my other Xboxes here, I have done cap kits on them and removed the old capacitors on it and put new caps on it. But this is one that I hadn't touched, and it still has all the seals and everything on it. Haven't opened it up. And after doing some research on it, finding out like, oh yeah, well, Microsoft decided that they were going to put a capacitor in place of the clock, and basically like the clock timekeeper. Now, for those of you who know about timekeepers are literally just a pain. It's normally just a chip that usually has a battery in it that helps, that has a crystal in it that helps keep the time of the system, and it keeps all of the, the date and all of that information saved. Normally it's run with a battery, but what Microsoft did is they wound up using a capacitor, and what that meant is, if you guys remember, anytime you would leave your Xbox unplugged for a certain amount of time, the clock would go dead, and you'd have to reset it each time. Just a really big pain, and a lot of hassle, to be honest. Wasn't the most well thought out, and as a kind of result of that, over time or over the years, the capacitors that are in it have started to leak, and the timekeeping capacitor is one of the worst ones that seems to be leaking very, very badly and can cause serious damage to the motherboard. So what we're going to do today is we're going to open this thing up, and we are going to check that capacitor, and if it is in bad shape, we're going to remove it, and then we're going to try and neutralize any of the acid if there's any acid leaking around it. Now, the Xbox does not need that capacitor in it in order for it to run. As of right now, most of the Xboxes that I know, they don't work when you first plug them in. They don't keep the time. They don't have any of that, it doesn't matter how many times you set it. It just doesn't seem to save it. Each time you turn it off, you have to do it again. So by removing this, it doesn't change anything like that. So what you're going to need is you're going to need a Torx bit head here for a screwdriver. You can use a drill as well, it does work. You might even be able to get away with a clutch head, although the screws in here are Torx bit. I just bought a regular Torx bit set here a while back, and getting a chance to use it right now. And we may need a soldering pen. We may need just a pair of pliers, because you can just snap it off and remove it. Definitely gonna have to neutralize the acid. And I know there may be a couple of people, there's always a couple of people that are look at this and see like 3 Xboxes and go, oh my gosh, hoarder, hoarder. It seems to be the word of the year. But if a lot of you guys have been around doing a lot of gaming, especially on the old Xbox, you'll know that a lot of people in their collection will have at least 3 or 4 Xboxes, at least a couple, and the reason for that was the home LAN parties, and I used to do a lot of those. That was really, really fun, and that's why I still have these 3 here. Yeah, just terrific for doing LAN parties at home. So let's crack this thing open. What we're going to do first is, underneath each one of these pads, there are 4 pads here. Maybe we can move this in view a little bit better. There are 4 pads underneath here, and what we're going to do is we're going to peel up the pads on the corners, which I've already done, and these will be our Torx screws. Also, underneath this label here, the one that says Xbox Video Game System, and in the very far back, underneath the serial number here, where it says 5 there's another hole, and that'll be another screw. So let's get to going on this here, and you'll notice there may be a little bit of a film around this. You just pop this through here and unscrew some of that. So this is much better with a drill, much easier, but nonetheless, these will just pop right out like so. There's one, and like I said, this is one that I haven't even gotten around to even opening up, so this will be the first time opening this one up. It's due for a cleaning nonetheless. That laser and the rails for the drive, we'll have to go back and do some cleaning on that just to keep up the maintenance. I don't think there's any specific problems with this one, but just to be on the safe side. So we'll take that one out, And then we'll take this one out here. If you're really worried about scratching up your Xbox or scratching up something, you could always put something very soft down, like a soft cloth, something like that. These ones were pretty scratched when I got them in the first place, so let's see here. So the next thing, what we're going to do is I have a very small X-Acto knife here. What we're going to do is cut around the edge here. You can do this one of two ways. If you want to, you could just peel up. I suppose we could do that as well. You can peel up the sticker under here and get access to that. Sometimes the sticker might rip. Oh, there we go. Okay, we'll just go that route. So here's this one here. We'll take that out, and then we'll come over here to this side, and once again, maybe I'll just cut around this one. And just be aware that by cutting this sticker here and by removing that sticker, you are voiding your warranty, and Xbox will not repair this. Although it's been a few years, I think they, yeah, you know, it's the seal. Just be careful. Be willing to sacrifice that. Just being a fool. Alright, so that should be all of the screws that we need. I believe that's all of them. And on the top here, we can lift our top piece off. And now we will have access to our Xbox. Now, what we are going to be looking for is a few different screws here that we're going to have to get access to underneath as well. And the drives, getting the drives out may be a little bit tricky. There's a flap on the front here, which can bend back. I think this can help us get out the rest of the drive. There are a few cables that are located on the drive itself, which we're going to pull off the ribbon cable here, pull off the power cable. Go, and that should detach our hard drive. There are a few screws that are actually holding the system in place. You can see the mounts here, the mounting screws, and we should be able to get those out with a Torx bit as well. On the back here, there is another cable here that is for the drive. There's a power cable too underneath that. So try and pull that one out. Then there are a couple of tabs that are located here on the side for the drive, and let me see. I think we need to get that that one out there first. So let's see if we can. There we go. That should work out all right. Yeah, getting a Torx bit set is probably your best bet here. Put that down there. And I think we might be able to get... Alright, there is the hard drive on the side here. And I recommend putting this in a safe place. You don't want to be putting it on the floor and, you know, rubbing the thing along the carpet or anything like that. You just don't want to expose that to any kind of, you know, electric shock, static electric shock. And the other one here, maybe this is going to be a little bit more tricky. Might be able to get one of these sides out. Let's try and get these two screws out here. There's one Torx bit screw down there on that side. This side's a little bit smaller space. And there's the other one. And that should get this out. Hopefully. There we go. So, if we take a look at this board here, you can see that, in fact, this is leaking. The part that we're going to be looking at down here is, it looks like it's leaking just a bit. This capacitor that's located right here, this is located at Q7G1. or it says underneath that capacitor 7G10. Actually, that's the better one. If you guys can see underneath here, this large capacitor, this is a, what is that, 2.5 volt 1 microfarad capacitor. What we can do with this is we can do one of two things. We can either desolder this, which is fine, or we can just snap this right off. Now, some people may be asking, you know, if you snap it off, is there any potential of doing any harm to the rest of the system? And the answer is no. You just have to be very, very careful when you take this off. You can bend it back and forth here to try and remove it, but it does look like there is a little bit of electrolytic fluid that's coming off of there. So what we're going to do is we're just going to set this down here. And we'll just kind of zoom in on here, hopefully if this thing stays in focus. Oh, that's maybe a little bit too close. So, like I said, there's two ways to do it. We could undo the whole motherboard here and try and desolder this from the bottom. But also, the other thing that you have to look out for too when you go to do that is if the solder on the bottom of it is dry or not. So, once again, this is kind of the quick fix, or the quick way to remove it. And for some people, this is not something they want to do, you know, and definitely I recommend if you can get at the bottom of it, then totally give it a shot. I'll probably do that with the other ones as well. All right, so let's try and get this out here. And let's take a look at the bottom of the capacitor. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Maybe we might have to zoom out, well, a little bit. After we take a look at the board itself, you guys can see down there, it doesn't look too bad. It is a little bit green, starting to get a little bit green down there. And what we'll need to do is use a little bit of some vinegar and rub that around on the outside of that and clean it up a little bit. And then neutralize the acid. That should be fine. Other than that, it looks like it should be okay. What'll happen in this situation here after a while is you'll notice that these PNP transistors here that are used for the charging circuit may sometimes come off, and a couple of the traces that are located around the side here for the capacitor will be corroded, as well as the bottom of the board. So you really want to get rid of this capacitor here as quickly as possible. Now what I'll do is I'll make a video here to show you guys that this thing still does run, and it still does turn on with the capacitor off of it. And I won't replace it with any other one, I'll just leave it off. What you could, I suppose, technically do is you could replace this capacitor here, this 2.5 volt capacitor, with a battery, but the only problem with that is you have to find a way to secure the battery. You'd have to put it somewhere on top here, maybe around the hard drive, or an easily accessible location, so that it didn't cause any interference or it didn't ground out to anything else, any other part, where you could just put in a coin cell battery and then you could always refresh the clock and you wouldn't have to worry about constantly turning it on. Or another thing you could do is using a supercapacitor. You could probably put a supercapacitor in there, possibly, if you could find the same voltage one, which seem to be a little bit better at holding voltage than these electrolytic ones, these longer ones. But yeah, that's what you have to remove there in order to get at that part. And I might actually have another one here that I need to check. So let's put this one aside. Let's see if we can find another one that maybe is in better condition, worse condition. Let's see how bad it gets. So here's a second one here. And see, this one I've obviously opened before. So, you know, I think maybe this one might be a repair project. Let's take this one out. And let's try to get at this one. This is one that I was working on recently. Alright. going off screen here. Alright, this one should be a little bit easier, I think, hopefully, to open up. Alright, and same thing we're going to do here. I think I've removed most of the screws on this one. We'll remove the ribbon cable here, and we'll remove the power cable. And we'll take this one off. You don't want to mix these up, so I'm going to try and keep this one here close. But just want to take a look at the bottom there and see how that other capacitor is, just out of curiosity. Keep that one on the side, and we will disconnect this one. Also keep this drive, keep this drive over here. And take a look at this one. And yeah, this one still looks okay as well. There's no major leaking going on there either. Oh well, I guess there's a little bit going around towards the bottom there, as you can see. To get at the bottom of this one, once again, we are going to need our Torx bit. And this is also a really good time if you do get this far and you do decide to, open up your Xbox, to go around the heatsink here on both of the chips here for the graphics processor and the CPU. Add some new thermal paste to it. Clean out the fan. As you can see here, this fan's in really nice, condition. It's been cleaned out, and that'll save you a lot of hassle as well in the future. But let's just take a look at this. Also, there are different places where you can put these screws. Some people, I know, like to use was it like Tupperware bins to keep them in place. Other people like to use, was it ice cube trays, like was it Retro Game Tech? So everybody's got their own thing. So I'm going to disconnect the back here. If you've never done this before, if you've never removed anything on an Xbox and you're worried about getting everything back together, what I recommend doing is take a picture of it. It works out really well. We all have, well, for the most part, a lot of people have cell phones nowadays with a camera in them, and it can be really, really easy just to take a couple of pictures of some places where ribbon cables go. That way you don't wind up getting mixed up here. And let's see, disconnect this one from the motherboard, disconnect this one here from the motherboard, get this one out, got a couple more screws in here. Whee! But yeah, this is something that I had seen some pictures online and saw the capacitors were leaking and thought, wow, that's really, really bad. That does not look good. So disconnect the main cable here. Here. Try to, actually, without pulling on this too much. There we go. That was in there a bit. And we'll disconnect this one up here, up front, for our on-off controls. And there's one more screw over here. And once again, with motherboards, a lot of people will say use anti-static wrist protection. If you're someone who's really, really worried about it, then yes, definitely. If you want to do it the correct way, then yes, definitely use an anti-static wrist strap for it. Ground yourself out on one end, put it on your arm. That way you don't cause any shocking to your Xbox or your PC. I do not deny that. But, as you can see, I'm not using one right now. Okay, and this thing should pop out here. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to flip this board around here, and once again, we're taking a look at this capacitor over here near the charging circuit. You want to check to make sure that doesn't look like it's eaten away at the board. Yeah, the bottom of the board looks very nice. Still no problems at all. And if we were to go ahead and remove this, what we would do is Just make sure that you have the right one. You don't want to be removing a bunch of the wrong capacitors. What we'll do is we'll grab our soldering pen. And see, this is a left hand. Maybe I should not do this left-handed, because that would just be dangerous. And let's see here. So you could use a solder sucker to try and get this out, but what we're going to do here is adjust the camera up just a little bit. And we are just going to try and just push this guy out. Not putting too much pressure on it. I'm just rocking this from one side to the other here. Hopefully we can get this a little bit hot here. In some cases, you may need to apply a dab of solder, which works really well in getting out very stubborn capacitors. So what you can do is just kind of like flood the hole, and let's see here, flood the hole. Now that sounds really good, doesn't it? Luke's repair tips. Flood the hole. I'm gonna go and get a solder tip cleaner here. Gotta clean the tip before we flood the hole. Alright, so that should be alright. And we're just gonna go back here to our 2 points on the board and add a bit of solder to kind of tin this up, make this hopefully a little bit easier to remove. And now that we have a couple of dabs of solder on there, should be able to get this, oh yeah, much easier. That old solder is just, yeah, really, really bad. And then if we take a look here, you can see our capacitor, which is our 2.5 volts. Oh, actually, this one, yeah, it's 2.5. I was starting to look at it. Be careful here, because this one, it does look like it says 5 volts on it, and it isn't 5 volts, actually. There's the 2, which is up in the corner. Compare it to the other one, which I have somewhere around here, but it's definitely 2.5. So we will remove that, and then take a look at the top part here, once again. And as you can see, there is a little bit of corrosion and goo that is around there. Looks like a little bit of electrolytic fluid, but nonetheless, this is the nicer, cleaner way to do this, so you can remove that out of there. Nonetheless, once you get that out, you shouldn't have any other problems. It shouldn't have any other issues in it. You can clean around the area where that capacitor used to be, and that should be fine. But just figured I'd share this with you guys here. Just a little bit of a tip, a maintenance preventative measure, or a way to kind of get your Xbox going again if you have any leaky capacitors around this area and you haven't replaced them. Yeah, definitely go and take a look at that one that is used for the clock itself, and try and remove it, get it out of there. And if you want to replace it with another one, you know, it might be an alright idea. But yeah, that's about all for me for right now. Like always, I'll put up another video here soon, so thanks for watching.